There's hope for my city. We are the chosen ones. We are the light, reflecting His only Son. Hope for my city.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Hope for My City. It's your boy, Pastor G, man. Listen, we got Angelo Fajardo up in the house, man. What's up, man? Let's give a little little hand clap out there, man. You know what I'm saying? We got Angelo Fajardo up in this place, man.
Going on?
Say what's up to the people. This is your camera when you're talking to the people.
Oh, okay. What's the deal?
Man, you know, it's a Angelo happens to be my cousin, right? My little cuddy, man, and but for many years in the community, man, he was one of my right hand folks in the ministry and out here doing what we do, and so it's a pleasure, it's a blessing. He's been a young man that I've had the opportunity to pour into. And my goodness, just being able to have an opportunity to do that and see where he's at now, it is a beautiful blessing and an encouraging moment, and it has been an encouraging time. So that's why it's a special thing for me to be able to have him on here. And man, we're just here to really unpack his story, because there's a lot of intricate pieces that come into this, right? That makes up, you got your dad, longtime friend of mine. Shout out to Homer Fajardo. You know what I'm saying? Adrian Fajardo.
Yeah.
And then shout out to Angelissa Fajardo. I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm Angelissa. Hand clap for Angelissa.
Yeah.
And then my cuddy, Vero Marie. I call her Dark and Lovely.
Dark and lovely.
But so there's all those intricate pieces of your family. But I wanted you to come on here because this whole thing is hope for my city.
Yeah.
Right. And your story brings hope to our city. Yeah. And I just wanted you to have this platform for you, Angelo, to share your story.
For sure.
Right.
Was born in South Waco.
All right.
Stayed on South 30th Street behind the old HEB.
Okay.
A little corner brown brick house, probably 800 square feet. Went to Bells Hills Elementary, and then
Bells Hills,
and then we ended up moving to Hewitt at going into the year 2000.
Okay.
99, 2000, we moved over there, and we lived we went from South Waco to Hewitt, right? Hewitt, which is, the suburb of Waco. And so it was beautiful, right? Because we got out, from the neighborhood and went to a new suburb that was blowing up, and it was beautiful financially. Okay. But in the home it was wicked,
Right.
And
well, when you say wicked, what do you mean?
Wicked as far as when we moved to Hewitt and we tell the story, we just came out, with the story about when my dad went back into the drug game.
Okay.
And when he went back into the drug game, that I think it was 2000, he ended up becoming, this big time drug dealer in Waco. And with that comes all kind of craziness. So like one thing that was pretty messed up, and I tell it today, and I barely found out in my 20s, that I was 11 years old, and I remember almost every night I'd be looking out my window thinking somebody was going to pull a kick door, one of my dad's enemies. And so my heart would be racing at night looking out the window. And so that messed me up, seeing, my mom and dad fight because he has these women on the side and crazy fighting, and just seeing all the stuff, go down. Yeah, just a lot of craziness, man. Just little stuff like that.
So being a young man from the south side of Waco going to Hewitt, you said that being in, by the time you were in Hewitt, you had these fears, right? And as a young person worrying about whether they were going to kick the door down,
Yeah.
right? Tell us more about that, because there's kids that you were your age at that time, that wasn't their concern. That's not even in their minds at all.
Yeah.
How was that so for you? How did that come to be, like, to have those kind of anxiety and fears?
Well, it stuck with me into my 20s.
Mm.
When I was a teenager, I did a lot of drugs and stuff, and I was, out there in the streets, so I really didn't, process my feelings. But when I got clean and sober in my early 20s, at night, I would be sweating at night, paranoid, and I'd be looking towards my room door, just trying to hear if I'm going to hear somebody kicking our door.
Mm.
And I would battle that almost every other night. Like, I'm like tripping, paranoid. And then I remember we did the study on emotionally healthy spirituality, and just talking about going back, in order to move forward. And so I was like, why do I feel like this? Why am I, filled with paranoid at night, thinking somebody's going to kick down our door? And then I remembered as a kid, I was dealing with that. And so when I finally realized, like, this is what I went through as a kid, and this is why I'm feeling like this now, I was set free.
So it followed you all the way up into your young adult years.
Yeah.
And so, but what I was saying is, that's great. What at you were saying you were 8?
I was 11.
11 years old.
Yeah.
What I know you were talking about the different things going on with the arguing with the parents and the lifestyle that was being lived. But what do you think had you come to that conclusion as an 11-year-old?
Oh, about somebody kicking down the door.
Yeah, that's
so
what
when I was always around my dad and his friends, every weekend, we were at a function, like a quinceañera, wedding, family gathering. And so every time we went somewhere or we were having parties at our house, my dad's friends and family, they would be outside, drinking.
Okay.
Right? Drinking, doing whatever they're doing. But I was there at 11. I was like their bartender. I'm going to go get the beer.
Okay.
I'm hearing all the conversations. So I'm hearing about what's going on in the streets, people getting killed. And so I'm soaking all that in, and I'm dripping, right? And so I was just talking about that the other day. We were at my grandma's eating dinner in North Waco, and some stuff went down. There was a shooting. And I told my dad, I was in the front yard, I was like, man, I remember we were playing dominoes right here. I was about 11, 12, and he had the 6'4" Impala, the both 6'4" Impalas, all his homeboys, and he had enemies, across the street. And my dad, I remember him walking out, brandishing his gun. And man, I was so paranoid. Like the whole time they were playing dominoes, and I was like just tripping. But just instances like that just stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, that, and that's it. Trying to go into the mind of an 11-year-old. Like I'm sure there's young people out there that may be going through the same thing.
Yeah.
That are having to deal and process that type of experience and information, right?
Yeah.
And then there's those out there that have no idea what that's like and don't understand. So want to give them an opportunity to hear that. So you're 11 years old, and you come from Bells Hills, because you say you were in Hewitt. So you come from Bells Hills. What was your experience, in the south side of Waco? When you were going to Bells Hills, you were there on is it South 30th
Street.
South 30th Street. What was your experience there and in the South Side growing up?
I was, 9, 10 years old. Still went through some similar stuff because, my dad was doing smaller stuff then, but it wasn't as crazy. But, it was just like I was just a normal kid then, right? I really don't. Yeah, I remember some things, but it wasn't the craziness we went through in Hewitt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it turned up by the time
Yeah, it
you got
turned
to
up.
Hewitt. It was
Yeah.
like on a whole nother
Yeah, it
level.
was a whole nother level.
Okay.
Whole nother level. Yeah.
Man, so yeah, so that's your childhood, right?
Yeah.
Well, in that lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
as you know it now, you didn't realize really what was going on.
Yeah.
And some of those cases, it was like they were just normal,
Yeah.
right? Because that was
Yeah.
the dynamics of the family and
Yeah.
the stuff that was going on, the dysfunctional pieces,
Yeah.
right? That all families deal with
Yeah.
and go through. But so, you know, how did that impact? We'll get back to your 11-year-old, but
Mm-hmm.
how did that impact your worldview, just growing up,
Mm-hmm.
being a young person within that lifestyle?
Yeah. So, we get raided. I was 13. We get raided. Said my dad, 20-year federal sentence. So we went from Hewitt and
23 year.
23 year, yeah. And we ended up moving back to South Waco. We ended up moving back to South Waco into some apartments, and that's when like the poverty hit and all the emotional stress came and everything, the full nine.
So you went from the South Side, going to Hewitt,
Going to Hewitt.
at 11 years old, and then at what age were you when you had, when everything happened and you came back?
14.
14 years old. Okay. So before we talk about the poverty part, talk about the day when everything happened.
The day, so I remember we were at the kitchen table, and my mom made our favorite breakfast. It was carne with nopales, rice, burritos. And we're eating. It's me, my dad, Adrian, and my mom's in the kitchen cooking. And out of nowhere, we just heard boom. And right when I heard that boom, it clicked for me like somebody's pulling a kick door. This was at 8 a.m. before school. So what I did, right when I heard that boom, my instinct, I ran out the back door.
You got ghosts?
I got ghosts.
What?
Because I thought somebody was pulling a kick door.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, and that somebody was my dad's number one enemy, okay? And so I just thought, and he was a serious person. And so I ran out the back door. Right when we ran out the back door, there's probably about 30 feds in the backyard. And they put us behind the tree. And we ended up going inside, and they had my mom and dad on the ground, raiding the house. So that happened.
What were they saying? Like, what's...
I just remember kind of, some of the main guys are, like smiling and stuff. Like, we got them type of smile. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah.
What did that do for you? Like, in such a serious moment for you. Now, of course, you had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
This was your dad's choices and lifestyle he's made.
Yeah.
And here you are as a kid, though.
Yeah.
And the law enforcement is doing their job. And so they're smiling because they actually were able to catch them, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of what they do as a task force, or what do you call them? My mind went blank.
For the DEA?
Well, yeah, the DEA, but the ones that the SWAT team that come in and pull the kick doors. But what did that do for you, though, as far as you seeing those smirks and those smiles?
So it made me mad towards law enforcement.
Okay.
It was like bump the laws, yeah.
So the feelings associated with that with that was
and it was just I was young and my mind was just everywhere. I hated the world. I said bump the laws, and but also I had a hatred towards my dad too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that hits on what I was saying is dad made some decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you realizing that, wait a minute, I didn't have no control of this stuff, and now all this stuff is happening, and so you then put the blame right, on your dad because of his decisions that he made
Yeah.
that affected the whole family,
Yeah.
right? So that was a huge thing, and of course, me and your dad are close. I know your dad really, really well. Grew up with him, and me and him have talked about this, and he's a changed man. For those of you who may not know, he's a
Yeah.
changed man. He did, his 15 and a half years in there on a 23-year bid in the feds, and now is successfully transitioned into society and being a productive individual in society and doing some great things. Has his own business. Uh, is married and is a part of a amazing blended family now, and so which you assimilate into
Yeah.
with the other rest of that blended family.
Yeah.
And so just so y'all know, it's a beautiful thing now what God has done. But we're just taking this journey to unpack the story here with Angelo, and
Yeah.
so not trying to attack
No, yeah,
Dad.
yeah. No, yeah, for sure. We always get to that at the end, so they don't think I just still feel that way.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
but anyway, continue
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah. So where we're at?
So we're talking about the raid happens.
Oh, yeah, so
it
the
starts
raid.
to shape kind of
shape my mind.
about your feelings now about your dad and your feelings about law enforcement. Where did that end up going as you continue from
Yeah.
being into South Waco now,
Yeah.
going back to you being 14, and now you're back into South Waco. You're in poverty now,
Yeah.
right? And so you've come out of Hewitt. You came out of South Waco into Hewitt,
And then back.
back
to
now.
South
Now
Waco.
you're in poverty, but now in your journey you have this hate towards law enforcement, and now hate towards your dad, right?
And it was like a hate towards my dad because, it messed. And I always talk about this. It's one thing when you grow up in poverty, but it's another thing when you have everything, then go to poverty, right? You always see businessmen, when they lose everything, they kill themselves because they don't know how to experience that poverty. So we felt the same way, seeing my mom cry every dang day. I'm talking about a bawling crying and like a helpless cry. When she's like, all we got to eat is tomatoes. It messed me up. We didn't know how to process that. And so all these emotions built. I'm like, man, my dad left us, bumped the laws, and it just led to a combination of me hating the world. And so I took that and for about a year and a half, about a year, I tried to stay because my dad had a conversation with me before he left. He took me on a ride and he said, I need you to take care of your family. And I didn't know how to process that. And so that first year, I'm like trying hard not to just spaz out. I'm trying to keep it together, but it's just like I just broke down, and that's when I went full force into the streets, just not giving a crap. It was my first year in high school, and I just went out of there, caught my first felony, and got into the juvenile probation system. Was incarcerated over like a dozen times in the juvenile system, in and out, ODing in the streets, and then I got into the drug lifestyle as far as selling drugs, and it was just like bump everybody. And so, but at the same time though, it's crazy. I hated my dad, but I also loved my dad, and the reason why I loved him, it was a different love at that time. I loved him because everybody in the streets knew who he was and they respected him. And so it was easy for me to get in the drug game at 16 because I went to his friends, older men that respected my dad, and they treated me right, right? Because, if you're 26 years old, you're not going to mess with no 15-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like, man, there's nobody. But I had, a
legacy.
A legacy, basically.
A street legacy.
A street legacy. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I want to be just like my dad. I want to be able to take over Waco. And that was my mission. But yeah, all those emotions just played a big role.
And for you dove into, and you mentioned it, you dove into the drugs, of course, doing the other things, but, you relied heavily on the drugs, and you drowned yourself
Oh yeah.
with drugs, trying to escape the realities that were before you and the experiences that you've had to endure.
Yeah.
And so, man, that had you ODing several times.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
like
I OD'd in the classroom at Coach Renfro's class at university. My homeboys had to take me out, and they drugged me out. I don't know why he didn't call Coach Renfro. I don't know why he didn't call. I mean, call somebody, but they took me out of class, and they got me in a car, took me to the house, and then that's when I think my mom called the ambulance.
so
yeah.
you at university
Yeah. Yeah.
ODing like a month.
Yeah, ODing, man. Somebody sold me some fake pills. I took one, didn't hit. I took another one. I took like 4 or 5, and next you know I'm out of there. Yeah.
Foaming out the mouth and some more
Foaming
stuff.
out the mouth.
Man, you know, talking about your mom, like, that's crazy, man. I
Yeah.
remember many times, you know, because, you know, she's one of my close cousins, having to go over there, and boy, she worried about you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I'll save her story, you know, because, you know, we'll end up talking with her, but I mean, she went through a lot, man.
Yeah, she did.
You know, and you know, it impacted her in
Yeah.
the same way it impacted you. It was different,
Yeah.
but the same,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, you could see the destruction of you know what that lifestyle brings, right? Not only from being your dad being absent, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the lifestyle changing everything, the experiences, but it affects you mentally
Yeah.
and emotionally.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember going over there and praying with you guys, and
Yeah.
you know, and then I remember going over there and having to pray for your mom because bless her heart, man, her being a single mom, man, out there doing the best she can to cope and deal with all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it did something to her, man. Then it affected her in a way where she's drowning
Yeah.
with all these different things, trying to cope with things, you know, and you know, what we see modeled from us growing up is we cope with things in unhealthy ways, and it's learned behavior.
Yeah.
You know, we don't mean to, but it's all we know.
Yeah.
Where we come from, we don't go to counselors and you know, all that kind of stuff. We just deal with it at a bar somewhere or the bar in our own home, and you know, and it affects us greatly and deeply, and so you know, talk about the poverty part.
Yeah.
You were talking about the tomatoes, but like, what did that do to you mentally and emotionally, being there physically in that state?
Man, it made me again, it made me mad. It made me real mad. And it was that's what led me to take action. Right? I've never it's like I think that was a starting point of like me growing up at that age, like hurrying to grow up. Like I need to do something. Right? And it just, I don't know, it really messed me up, man. And just to see my mom and all that go through that, and then it messes up even more when she lost her job. I was getting in trouble a lot at school, so she's having to go to the school, she's having to go to the juvenile, and she was leaving so much that she got fired. She had a good job. She was I forgot what it was called. But
She worked at a doctor's office.
Doctor's office.
Something like that.
Yeah, typing,
Yeah.
you know. But she was real good at it.
She was transcribing.
Transcribing, yeah. She got fired. And
Hold on, did we say, hold on.
medical transcriptionist.
Shout out to Marie Garcia, man, Vero. You know what I'm saying again? I mean, she's gone through it, man. She gets, as a mom. You know, all you moms out there, as we continue Angelo's story, man, just know, man, we got love for you, man. Don't give up. You may be going through it right now, and you can relate. Man, don't give up. Maybe you're in Angelo's shoes, and you're a son or you're a daughter. Man, don't give up. There's hope. You know what I mean? And so as we unpack this story, just know that you ain't alone.
Yeah.
And we're gonna continue to hear where this story goes, but just know, man, that if that's you out there, or maybe you're the parent that's making these choices or have made them. Man, don't give up. There's hope out there. As you continue to hear this story, we're going to continue it. But I just want to, talk to you guys about that. If you're viewing this, you're looking at this, to stay tuned in, and we're going to continue with this, man.
Yeah.
So man, okay, Angelo, you're processing all this mentally, emotionally, being in poverty. You're making some unhealthy choices. You're seeing what's happened to your dad, and then now you're seeing what's happening to you. You're witnessing it. You're seeing what's happening to your mom. She loses her job.
Yeah.
What happens then?
So she says she got me and my brother, and she's like, I think we're gonna move it to the Salvation Army. I'm like,
The Salvation Army.
hold on, I couldn't process that. Like, what is the Salvation? Because I'm still new to this whole poverty thing.
Yeah.
What is the Salvation Army?
Mm.
And basically like a shelter.
Right.
I'm like, heck nah, ain't no way. And then she ended up talking to my grandpa, her dad, my grandpa Tony. And she called him like, hey, we ain't got I'm finna lose this apartment. Can we move in? And at that time, my grandma just passed away. So it's my grandpa, my Uncle Tony, but there's another family living there. It's a 2-bedroom house.
Okay.
2-bedroom house.
Okay.
So there's a whole other family living there, my aunt and my uncle and their kids.
Right.
And so we're like, all right, we'll sleep on the floor.
Hold on. Shout out to Uncle Tony.
Yeah.
Boy, that boy's a true soldier.
Yeah,
Man, look, let me tell you something, man. If you got an Uncle Tony, like I got an Uncle Tony, he has his grandpa Tony to him. But if you got a Tony in your family, man, look, you already know what it's like, man. It's a blessing because he took all these families in, you know what I mean, and they super throwed, on steroids throwed. You understand what I'm saying? But yeah, he got this heart to believe in people enough to say, I'm going to let you come live here. And them living there was, I know, it's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to let you get to it, but I just had to make a pit stop and say, Uncle Tony, we love you, man. I still call him Uncle Tony. But man, he's a real one. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so he took us in, and we slept on the floor, and it was cramped in a mug, and that's when the craziness starting to happen when we moved over there.
All right.
That's because, let me tell you, my dad just left.
Yeah.
My grandma, she was 50 years old. She just passed away from stomach cancer. So my mom's out of there. My Uncle Tony's out of there. He's the baby boy,
Yeah.
And so he was young. I think he was like 21. His mom just passed away. My grandpa, everybody was out of there emotionally. So it was like craziness. Like my uncle became alcoholic at 21. I'm talking about drinking Goldschlager every day.
Yeah.
And he punching walls in the house. And he's like, and me, I started to be in the streets, so I'm talking crazy to my mom and stuff. So he's like, he'll call my mom, hey, where's Angelo? And I'm finna go whoop him. I was scared to the mug because that's when he was, they would come home, he's knocking people out at the club. And I'm like, shh, I got to bounce. So I would leave the house for a while. And so just different stuff like that, it was going on at that house. Yeah. It was like, 12 people in that 2-bedroom house. And it was just madness, man. Like, everybody was alcoholic in there.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
It sounds crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So there was, with everybody going through what they were going through individually.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a lot of tension going on throughout.
Oh yeah.
That whole thing, right?
Oh yeah, it was tension, man. It was tension just off the little stuff. Like we had shower times because it was so many people.
Well, that sounds like you locked up, bro. Shower time.
You had your own. You couldn't go in the refrigerator. Because a whole family over here got their food.
No.
Stuff like that.
Hold on, now keep talking. Wait, what?
Yeah, so
take us there, bro.
Yeah, it's just like we couldn't just go in the refrigerator or you're gonna get talked bad to.
Shout out to Uncle Tony. That boy had a community center up there, bro.
Oh man, bro, man, and
What?
so yeah, man.
So okay, so you had to share the showers, right?
Share the showers. You had a time,
So there was like certain times.
certain times.
Like how? Give us an
Cause
example.
like on Monday night,
Okay.
everybody, getting off work, the kids gotta take a shower. So you got 12 people, one bathroom. So you had to have like a,
Like, is it like you get 30 minutes? How
No, you
long
just
you
get
get?
in the line. I don't know, cause bro, I was always gone.
Okay.
I didn't want,
you ran from all that.
I ran. I just stayed high. I just stayed high.
That
man.
boy was trying to run from that reality.
Yeah, man. And so just different stuff like that, man, was just crazy.
Dang.
Yeah.
So yeah, Uncle Tony's a legend, bro. Homeboy
yeah.
opened up a community center right there in
Nah.
South Waco, James Street.
Nah, yeah, man.
For the family now, man. That's a
Yeah,
blessing, though.
yeah.
Even though that was chaotic and crazy,
It was chaotic, man.
man, Uncle Tony held it down for the fam and still
Yeah.
does to this day, by the way.
Yeah.
But he been through it.
No, yeah, he
been
has,
through it.
man.
He's
He
seen
has.
some stuff, boy.
Oh yeah, just I remember one night and just talking about my grandpa Tony.
Yeah.
Played a major role. But like one night, and I thank him, and I just realized it the other day. I was on Xanax bars. I remember one night I got into it on the next block with a friend of mine, and I was on Xanax, so I wasn't thinking clearly. Because usually if we had a problem, I would fight before we try to shoot anything. So he got me mad, and I'm on Xanax, so I went to my grandpa's house, and then at that time, my mom and them moved out, but it was my room. And I went inside, and I took out a big old 20-gauge Mossberg, long old shotgun. And usually if I had big guns, I would put them through my window instead of walking out the front door. But I was on it, and I just put a shirt over it. So the shirt's covering the tip, and I'm walking out the living room, and he's watching the novela, the Spanish movies. Right when I walk down the stairs in the front, he turns me around, and he grabs a shotgun. And we're both on our knees wrestling with it. And he's like, Angelo, stop. And I just remember just pulling it. I don't know how I pulled it away from him. And I ran off with it. And that's when I think he or my mom caught the laws. And so I told somebody, hey, take this, run with it to the next block. But I thank him that he did that, because if he wouldn't have did that, I would have went and shot somebody just point blank, and, I'd be away for murder. But he had the guts to sit there and wrestle with a big old Mossberg pump. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's Grandpa Tony.
Man, that boy getting away with some guns and
Yeah, man.
opening up the community center.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, so he's been through some stuff. Man.
But there was other dynamics or dysfunction to that, within the family, man, because it's just the way it is, right? And the families, when the family's going through stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you're seeing the effects of poverty. You're seeing the effects of coping mechanisms, is what we call them, like of the family having to deal with the hand that they're being dealt, right? And for some, the decisions that they've made and the consequences of them, right? But that's not everybody, but that is some. All these things are a part of the story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so then what happened? Y'all moved in over there. What happened after that?
I think my mom ended up finally getting her little own spot, her little rent house for the first time. I think this was, I don't remember, 2011, 2010, 2010, the end of 2010. And I ended up, I was started to catch a whole bunch of time. Like I probably between 17 and 20, I was probably locked up maybe 7, 8 times in the county jail. And I was just catching all these charges, man. And then I got out, me and my wife at the time, me and my girlfriend, Crystalina. She kicked me out. We had a spot in North Waco. Kicked me out, so I went to go move back.
Shout out to Crystalina.
Shout out to Crystalina. That's a whole other story right there. Went back and moved with my mom, and then that's when I started. I was pinned. I had like 5 charges pending, and I was like, man, I've been doing all this hustling and trying to find happiness in all these areas. And then that's when I said, and that's when you came and visited me in the county jail. You remember that?
I don't.
You came and visited me. And I was like, this dude came and visited me. Nobody else visited me. I'm like, man, G care. And that's when you told me about the church. And I was like,
oh, I do remember that now.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I've been locked up all these freaking time. None of that stuff is working for me. Happiness, joy, none of that, right? I remember being in my room, at 17, and I had a couple $1,000, and I had the best type of, stuff, to use, best type of drugs. And I'm like, I remember that day, bro. I was like, I got all this that I hustled for, and I was taking little trips to, Austin, Dallas to party, and it was like, bro, none of this stuff is bringing me joy. Like, I want joy, and I still don't have it. And so when I got locked up, you came and visited me. I'm like, I'm gonna see if that helps me. I'm tired. Even though I was 20 years old, I was tired of the life. I knew what it brings. Look where it sent my dad. It's not helping for me now, right? It's like, I'm not, the smartest person in the world, but this ain't working out.
Yeah.
There ain't no end to this. So that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to give God a try. I'm going to give him a try. And
man, so I remember going to Uncle Mike's house, and you'd hang out over there all the time, and man, I remember pulling up. The Lord will put you in my heart. I remember pulling up to the other houses and just praying for you and praying for your mom and the whole family.
Yeah.
I just so happened to be in a place where, I had, as I went to prison, got out, gave my life to God, and was in a place where I had been sober and could think straight, and started applying biblical principles, and it helped me get better and get away from the things that are not of God. And so I happened to be at a place mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually where I can even offer God, and so it was a blessing, because I used to not offer God. I used to offer everything else that you've been talking about to the family.
Yeah.
And so it was a blessing to know that it's possible to give people hope, the hope that's been given to you.
Yeah.
Where we come from, you give people the hurt that's given to you. So you hurt people, or the dope that's been given to you. You give other people dope, but in this sense, you give people love because it's been given to you from God. You give people hope instead of dope. You give, and it keeps going. You're a distributor of the things of God. So it was a blessing for me, especially, from my perspective, being a person that was in the family, a big influencer, where I've led the family in some bad directions, and having to ask God to forgive me and ask, certain people in the family to forgive me. But to be able to go and help. So there's a big story to that, right?
Yeah.
It's not just all of a sudden I'm all willy-nilly going over there. But as a result of God being at work, I was then able to trust God, because I had never done this and never seen it done, but to just pull up.
Yeah.
I was used to pulling up for all kind of other,
Yeah.
and we'll get to that at another time.
Yeah.
But here I am pulling up because this is my family.
Yeah.
And I ain't got no violence to offer. I ain't got no retaliation on behalf of my family. Look, but I do have what God has given me. So I show up and just say, man, we need to take this to God, that's what prayer is.
Yeah.
And so I would pray, and that brought hope to the family, which bring hopes to the city.
Yeah.
So I would show up, pull up, and pray.
Yeah.
And I remember all these different times, and I'm sure I'm forgetting, like I forgot about the jail part.
Yeah.
But, praying for all of y'all, and I remember pulling up at Uncle Mike's, man, and just God would put you in my heart, and I knew you were there.
Yeah.
And I would ask my cuddy, Vero, I'd be like, man, where's Angelo at?
Yeah.
He's over there at Uncle Mike's, I'm like, okay. I say, hey, come here, cuddy. And you come outside, some of our other family members, and I'd always talk to you. And I said, man, there's a purpose for your life.
Yeah.
I remember, because Aunt Hopi would do that to me.
Yeah.
And she would say, fat boy, there's a purpose for your life. And I'd be in all kind of problems on the news for guns and shoot,
Yeah.
And Hopi would pull up all the way from H-Town and just to tell me there's a purpose for your life, fat boy. That's how she would talk. She was like the Medea of the family.
Yeah.
And so little did I know that was learned behavior.
Yeah.
So I'd pull up and I'd be with the street talk still.
Yeah.
Talking to you like, hey boy, trying to show you love. It was some hard love, but telling you, bro, like this gonna happen to you, this and that and the other.
Yeah.
But you were always receptive.
Yeah. And see, and real quick, just so people know, when you came in, it was in 2010 when I was in county jail, when you came and visited me. And when I got out, I started going to the church here and there. So So when you would come to Uncle Mike's, I remember clear as day. You pull up, it'll be at nighttime, and I have a beer, and you were kind of, you were already kind of like mentoring me and stuff.
Yeah.
Here and there. But I remember you pull up, and I have a 24-ounce beer, and I'm like, man, he's pulling up. And then me and Rob will come out, and you be praying for us, and with my beer in my hand. But it meant a lot. You know what I mean? And so we'll keep going.
Yeah, and I'd pull up in church vans, buses. I was working at Mission Wake. I'd pull up and just, trying to not forget my family, because I was out there reaching people in the city. But I never forgot about my family. And that, honestly, like, that's your main thing when you change is, man, you can't help but think about your family first.
Yeah.
But you do one or two things. You either you do it in a way that draws them further away from you and God, or do it in a way where it brings them closer to you and God. Yeah. And I was praying and trying to do my best to not do that. And we had a healthy model, and Hopi, she would throw it off. She was the Medea of the family, but she was that person that would pull up all the way from H-Town on her family spiritually and speak on that and pray for us. But we had Stella. Stella, she's a part of our family. Shout out. May she rest in heaven, man. She's over there with the Lord now, man. But she was my mentor in a sense of she would invite me to church. She would do it in a way that didn't make me not want to go to church or want to be around her. Yeah. She always used grace, love, and mercy, and she always extended an invitation in a way that wasn't trying to make me feel little or something wrong with me if I don't go, or none of that, picking on me, none of that, man. She just always had this love. So I seen that, and I wanted to do the same thing. Yeah. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was learned behavior. Yeah. Because she would pull up too. You know what I mean? And by the way, Cousin Stella, maybe that's another time, but she would pull up. Yeah. For other things. And then I seen her life transformation where she would pull up for Jesus and talk to us about God and pray for us. And so anyway, so I just wanted some of that backstory so people can kind of understand a little bit of this whole the dynamics of this relationship. But to be able to see, because you were bringing this up, to be able to see what transpired. So let's talk about that. So there was these multiple touches of what we call in the church world discipleship. Yeah. You know what I mean? And is going outside the walls of the church and even your family, not forgetting your family.
Yeah.
But sowing those seeds or watering those seeds
Yeah.
and leaving it, and this is biblical, leaving it for God
Yeah.
to do the growing in
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Your responsibility is to plant the seeds,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that brings hope to the city when you do that, or to water the seeds that have already been planted. But if you're even able to, because it doesn't always happen, but to see
Yeah.
the growth happen, because that doesn't always happen, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it and when it does happen, you don't always get to see it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got a chance to see it.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that. So
Yeah.
now you're going to church.
Yeah, I'm going to church.
What are some of the steps?
So here and there, I was going to church, but so for that year and a half. But remember, I'm dealing with those 5 charges, and I can't. I know I can't hustle anymore. I'm trying to. My first time getting a job, a real job, and so I'm just going through it, man. And everything is just all these changes, bro. And so I got real bad drinking and doing cocaine. I got real bad. I was 20. I was doing it every other day. I mean, the weekend, I'll be messed up the whole weekend. So I was doing that a lot. And then a year and a half goes by, and it's crazy you're talking about seeds. Like, you plant the seed, and a lot of times people will plant the seed and want to see fruit the next day. It doesn't happen like that. So you're over here, you planted the seed. After a year and a half, I remember the day. It was a Sunday, and that night before, I drank all night, was coked up all night, and that next day, remember, my heart was tripping, and I was like, man, I need to leave this stuff alone. My girlfriend Christina's trying to leave me. You know, Nyla was just born 6 months old. And
hey, so hold on. Let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll move forward.
Okay.
Talk about the time where I got a phone call.
Yeah.
With that part.
So it was right before that. Christina called you and was like, she's finna leave me. She's fed up because I'm gone all night, not coming back sometimes to the next day. And she was like, if we don't have a sit down, I'm done. And so we had that sit down. Me, you, Christina, and Joanne, your wife.
And where was that? What house was that? Where was that at?
I forgot. Where was it at?
Bro, that was in Hilltown.
Oh, Hilltown. So it's on 16th Street.
The Naughty North.
Yeah.
Right there on
okay,
North
so y'all
16.
came over?
Yeah.
Okay. So we were living in
y'all
a little,
lived on top.
Yeah, a little garage apartment.
A garage
apartment. Probably 500 square feet.
Yeah, bro. We went over there, and Kristalina cooked for us, and we had the sit down.
Yeah, the final sit down. Because we broke up so many other times in the past.
Oh,
but now,
she said, I'm leaving Angelo,
yeah.
G. I'm just telling you right now. And I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
We're going to pull up.
Yeah, man. And
but she says, I want that.
Yeah.
Or I'm leaving.
Yeah.
If we don't have it, I'm like, she goes, I already told him.
Yeah.
I said, so he wants to.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here we go. Me and Joanne go over there.
And this how messed up, just talking about the lifestyle. I would tell her, man, I'm changed. I don't hustle no more. But I'm over here doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember calling her like, I'm done. I'm leaving the drugs alone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start going to church every weekend. I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's when that happened.
So
the big change.
Yeah. So I remember you started coming to church.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, I have this discipleship approach.
Yeah.
And I always say, if there's a lot of people that need help, but not everybody wants to help.
Yeah.
So I'll pray for everybody that needs it. May God be with them. I'll lift them up. But I don't engage, waste my time with anyone that doesn't want the help. If they want the help, I'll invest in them. And how do I know they want the help? Well, I'll put things out here to see if they want it.
Yeah.
They got to prove that they want it. So I'd say, all right, come to church.
Yeah.
You know, I'm come to church every Saturday at that time.
Yeah.
Every Saturday and this and that and the other. He would show up. So then I'd say, all right, the next thing is I'm going to see what your commitment's about, see where you at, see where your quota's at, and your heart.
Yeah.
And I said, is you be a part of our membership class. Take a membership. And at the time, he was like, what's that? And you're like, okay, it's whatever. I mean, he was really determined. You were determined.
Yeah.
So we're having a membership class, me and my wife with some members, some people that want to be members. And he was a part of that class.
Yeah.
So he pulls up in his white truck.
So this is, just so people know, This is in 2011.
Okay.
This is in 2011 before me and Christina started talking with you.
Okay.
So this is when I'm fresh out of county and
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he pulls up, and this truck that says White Lightning or something on the side of it, and he pulls up, and which is Uncle Tony's truck,
Yeah.
his grandpa Tony.
Yeah.
He pulls up, and we're in the middle of the Bible study,
Yeah.
and he gets a phone call, and all of a sudden he goes, "Man, G, it's my grandpa Tony. Can you talk to him?" And I'm doing the class.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah." He got on the phone. He goes, "Hey." He goes, "Okay, I just want to make sure he's over there. He has my truck." He says, I said, "Yeah, Uncle Tony, he's doing a Bible study he's becoming a member of the church."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he says stuff that he says, he talks. And then, that was it. But that was in the middle of the Bible study.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were suspect in all kind of ways. So he was just making sure. Because you're telling him you finna go to church.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nah,
Yeah.
Angelo going to church?"
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was one of the moments.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the multiple discipleship,
the steps,
engagements and steps. And so then the sit down happened, right? And then I'm not sure exactly when. You can talk about the timeline, but then there was a baptism, right? So part of it is, okay, you become a member of the church. I'm like, man, but you either already baptized, you make that commitment, or you want to get baptized to become a part of the family of God. And so, baptism is an outward expression of what's already gone on the inside in your heart. And so I said, that's a commitment, and you're acknowledging that God is at work in your heart, and you're declaring that before all the folks and the people, and responding to God's grace and all that. And you did that. Yeah. And here we was about to, and Angelo, to be clear, as a pastor, I was known in the city as that pastor that's out there with the throwed off folks that from from the streets, prison. Heck, I went to prison, all that stuff. I was in the streets. Yeah. So here is this pastor, that's out here with the gente, with the people. And so I'm fixing to baptize. We got a picture of this. I'm fixing to baptize you. You're all scrawny because you're on drugs. You're even high. I mean, and I'm thinking theologically. I'm like, man, most pastors probably wouldn't do this because I know how they talk and what they're about, and they put all these. I'll just say what it is. They put all these barriers before people, and it has to be a certain way. And I'm sitting there like, man, God's at work. What you talking about? And this guy's on drugs, but he's making a commitment. Yeah. And I'm gonna show the picture. Yeah. But he comes and he's all, and I'm like, I'm finna baptize it. And I'm looking you in your eye, and I'm talking to you as big cuz the way I talk to you. Yeah. I'm like, bro, you about this business, bro? You all right. In your heart, God is at and this and that. And I'm seeing you come to church. I'm seeing you become a member. I'm seeing you be a part of the sit downs and saying, okay, I give up, I surrender. Yeah. And so that's what gave me the audacity to baptize you, right? And man, let me tell you, that was a pivotal moment, right? To see you, make that commitment, go down into the water, come back up. What a beautiful spiritual moment, right? Yeah. And that picture speaks volumes because of what it points to. Yeah. Now being where we're at, and we're headed in that direction. But, and that's for any of you out there that are listening. Look, man, when God is at work, God is at work. And I like to say that he's at work in our hearts long before you come across any person or any building of a church or any of that. God is at work. God created us. He is for us. He is with us. He just wants us to engage back with him, to enter into a relationship. And he works through people to people. So he works through the people, and there's an order, and there's a beautiful fellowship that comes with that. And so as a local church, I've always been about the local church, right? And you engage with the local church because that is where beautiful things are facilitated that have to do with God and discipleship, and where it's healthy and it's balanced. And we've always been big about accountability. And I'm gonna say this, and then we'll go into the rest of the story and where it goes. But one thing about you that I've always appreciated is that you've always accepted accountability.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean always.
Yeah.
You've been through it.
Yeah.
Up under me, you know, and then in the early years, I was like on some Sergeant Slaughter stuff. I was like on some boy, straight out the pinta from the streets, gave my life to Jesus. Now I'm up here with spiritual swords, you know, bro, you know, but you went through it with me.
Yeah.
And you've seen me grow as a leader.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is you were initiated hardcore, bro.
Yeah.
And you still said yes to God.
Yeah.
And you still, you know, through all the disciplinas and, you know, all that stuff, you still move forward. That's what I've always admired about you, not just because you're my cousin. I mean, that's besides the fact but you as a human, as a person, you know, saying yes to God, and when you're held accountable, you take it, you receive it, and you keep moving forward. You choose to keep moving forward, and you allow those moments to become lessons for you. Not losses, but lessons. The Bible says that he turns the things that are meant for bad into good. And it says to those who love him. And so you have chosen to love God. And through that, I've seen the crazy miracles. I've had the opportunity to see the miracles of God transform you and prosper you in beautiful ways. That hadn't always been the story, but as a result, you've been doing this for how many years now?
12 years.
12 years.
12 years.
And you know, this is a success story of when you say yes to God. It's not a success story about, oh, look at Angelo popping his collar. None of that. That's why a lot of times I know too much. And I'm like, people that see you are like, man, they don't even understand. And that's why I wanted to unpack this, because I just so happen to be a person that knows all the intricate pieces of this stuff. We can be here forever. And so maybe perhaps we'll come back at another time and unpack other stuff. But let's continue to move forward, though.
For sure.
So you get baptized, you start to engage in the church, and then there's a transition time where you become a leader. Can you talk about some of that?
So got sober, changed summer of 2012. And then a couple months later, I was faithfully going to church, doing Bible studies, the whole nine. And then that's when I got involved with the youth. And me and my, became youth directors at the church. And that's when you gave me a box full of books. And I didn't take it. I was like, man, that's too many books, man. And I was still new to the whole reading thing. And then it was like something in me was like, man, read those books. And I read all these books from all the OGs in youth ministry in America, soaked it in, and it's like, man, that's when it was like, okay, I'm changed now, what's next? Okay, now I got to go back and reach and teach the next generation. And so that's when that full-fledged, thing started to happen. Reaching the youth, the high schoolers in the city, we call it the high risk kids.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man. Yeah. Shout out to all the young people out there that thought, oh, we love you, man. We always have, and we got a heart for you guys because we come from the struggle too. Yeah,
man. And I think that's what made me love it, because I went through that as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that for the next teenager.
Yeah.
And so, man, I was. We had them coming to the church, through Mission Waco, through personal relationships, and it was full of high school
kids. Shout out
to
Jimmy Doyle.
Yeah, shout out to Jimmy Doyle. And so we were doing like real ministry. I remember they called me, hey, bro, we're having all kind of small group Bible studies at my house. But it was also like, we were like counselors, but we're going to go be with them at the juvenile probation. I remember they'd call me, hey, bro, I haven't I'm taking them some dinner at 8 o'clock at night. Just different stuff like that. I'm showing up into their world. And that happened for a couple years, 5 years.
Yeah.
And then that's when I posted my first video.
And your first video, because of the transformation that happened, was about law enforcement and your experience getting pulled over. Is that right?
Though it was
That was the one that hit.
that was the one that hit.
Okay.
So my first video, it was about, I had a heart to reach people. So I was like, man, we got to bring people to the church. We had
You were in the parking lot?
It was in the parking lot
Of the church, yeah.
And I was like, hey, can you smoke weed and still go to church? I said,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
let me explain. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And so that got 10,000 views. I'm like, well, I'm gonna just keep doing this. More people gonna come to the church.
Oh yeah, and I caught all kind of heat from that boy,
Yeah.
from leaders in the city, bro. They were hearing me like, "Hey man, what's going on with?" I'm like, "Man, I stand on business with that, man. What you
Yeah.
mean? This is what we're trying to say."
Yeah.
But I got a lot of heat from the Christian community about that. So then, let's talk about, because Hope for My City podcast is where we can humanize people.
Yeah.
Right. That have been dehumanized.
Yeah.
Whether it's because they got in our case for Hope for My City is with law enforcement. A lot of times people look at law enforcement because they have their gear on, their fatigue on, their suit. What do you call them? Their work uniforms, right? And they automatically look at them and judge them and say, "Oh no, that's the laws. They're against us." And rightfully so. There's people that look at us from that side and see us all tatted up, or I've seen him on Waco's Most Wanted. Nah, they judge us.
Yeah.
So our attempt is to humanize those of us that come from where we come from, but also to humanize law enforcement. So let's talk about the thing that went viral.
Oh, the law video.
When you got pulled over.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
So
for a minute.
I had a Grand Marquis. I was a youth pastor, and I had my kids in the back, and we get pulled over, and I was like, man, all these charges are popping up on my background. So I thought he was wanting to search the vehicle, and he just got my ID and was like, all right, cool. That was the first time ever. Remember, I got locked up and pulled over so many times. I always got searched, everything.
Yeah.
But this is the first time getting pulled over, and they're like, all right, cool. That tripped me out. And so made a video about it, and it went viral. At that time, it was a lot of tension in America between law enforcement and the community.
Sure.
So that's why it went viral, and then after that, just every other video went viral.
So you were talking about your experience with law enforcement, and you were just saying how it was a positive one.
And,
well, people didn't want to hear that.
Yeah, because I said, like, if you ain't got nothing on you, why are you gonna act out?
Yeah.
Right? Like, most of the time when people act out, it's because they got something.
Yes, and so it didn't fit the narrative that already was out there.
Yeah, that everybody was posting.
Yeah, so even though that was your experience, people didn't want to hear that. They wanted you to say something else.
Yeah.
And so they were making fun of you on there.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, he's soft. I mean, he's a sellout, and all you were doing was being real and just saying, man, I am shocked that out of all my times, and I hated the cops, that I had a good experience." And you were saying, part of that good experience is because I ain't on dope, I ain't tripping. Not that people are. You were just sharing your story.
Yeah.
And then people were upset because they were like, well, that don't fit with the story over here. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
He's just sharing his story. It's not against nobody. It's not. You went on there saying, I'm going to say this against these people that are saying different. You were just trying to share your story, and people got offended. I remember, man, you being my little cousin, man, I seen people say all kinds, man, I wanted to get on there, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But, part of that is, that part of that inspired what was going on in my heart way back when I first said yes to God in 98, was the experience that I had with law enforcement, which then, spurred this idea of Hope for My City music video as a response, because I was like, man, my cousin's getting all this, people are talking noise about him, and I wanted to get on there and say stuff. I said, man, I can't. I said, well, we're going to do a music video, and we're going to do it with the laws there, instead of all the guys from our city that got the cars with the big rims and the gold. And I said, man, instead, we're going to bring the law enforcement. And it was a crazy idea. I didn't think it would happen, but it did.
Yeah.
And we brought in all the law enforcement, the chiefs okayed it, and we had all these ex-convicts and guys that just barely got out of jail in the video with the law enforcement, with their police cars. But all that was inspired because of what what you did and what happened through that, you know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a response video in a way.
Yeah.
And so and that led to this podcast even today. So that's when you look at it that way, the ripple effect of all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you talk to the numbers on so people can kind of understand who don't know? What did the numbers do with that police one, and what are the numbers up until this day? What happens on social media platform that you have?
Yeah, just after that, I just started speaking just truth on like my testimony, my family story, what was going on in America, and just I counted just all the big videos, and it's over 250 million views.
Okay.
And that's how all that went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy. I always just tease them a little bit, and I'll mess with them, and I'll say, man. I said, Angelo can just, you know, say he's going to the store and get 1 million views or something, like 500,000. And, you know, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing what God has done, is doing in your life. I just wanted we can be here for hours and hours and hours, but I just wanted an opportunity to unpack your story, because there's so many stories within your story, within the dynamics of your family. Beautiful stories, by the way. Which, could you tell people where they can go to see those videos if they haven't, and even what you got going now with the podcast?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube under Angelo Fajardo.
Okay.
You go check out, the videos, and, we just came out with a podcast called Wise Guys, and with me, my dad, and my brother.
Yes.
And so that's a pretty cool thing we're doing now. But yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk more about other things. But thanks for coming on. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
is there anything, look at that camera, to tell the people as we finish this off? What's some last thoughts or that you'd like to tell the people looking at this?
Yeah.
As you're on this Hope for My City podcast.
Yeah, for sure. I think, just what we talked about today is putting God number one. You see what God can do, even through the mess that you're going through. You put God number one and watch what he will do. But you got to take that first step.
That's right.
God's there waiting. Take that first step and watch what he'll do.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all later.
Yeah.